Okay, with this video I'd like to explain to you what I will call the mind computer, or the understanding of the word Zion, the understanding of the 7 code in detail. So if you have Zion, break that word down. All right, you have the 7, flip and mirror, you have the 7 for the Z, then the ion being the ion. So if you recall what I told you before about the double 7 leading into the 14, reducing into the 5, and then the 5 being the man, then the man's ion, or eyes on that. And what is that? That is whatever that is, a story, whether it be true or false, it doesn't matter. This deals with truth and fiction alike. This deals with everything that you see, feel, and think, and then react upon or move upon. All right? And so just so you know, this deals with hearing as well, because everything goes through the mind and is decided on. So this is something what people might consider or call what is the third eye, or what is called the understanding of conscience. All right? What I tell people is it's best to leave all that alone and just trust in Christ and be given the Comforter, i.e. meaning the mind of Christ. All right? So anyways, that's enough of that. I'll leave that alone, and I'll just move on to what I call the mind computer. Now this is simply a laid out spreadsheet dealing at the top. I have going through the only numbers that matter, 1 through 9, and then the 10 being the return back to the 9. And I will cover this in detail, but I'd like, before I do, that in order to understand this further, you must go into this understanding, or the what's called the 47th problem. All right? It's not one. It's a gate. It's where you decide whether to believe something or not, and then the actions that then causes. Okay, remember this shape for me, please, okay, because I'm going to get back to it. It's very important that you understand these riddles that are left to be decoded, because what is put out by most people is put out because they themselves don't understand what they're talking about. All right, so you're dealing then with the man in time. So that is everybody. Everybody is born into sin, sign, into the world of colors, tones, tunes, and ideas. And then you're left to your own devices, all right, to navigate your way through what you choose to believe. And most people have taken the path of least resistance, meaning that they go with the flow, all right? They go to where the crowds go. They go to where it's comfortable, and they go to where nobody's going to mock them. All right? Unfortunately, this has then turned everybody upside down, and then has shifted. What I'm going to go through later is this. Again, don't allow yourself to get too tied up in this as being something to follow. This is also just a schematic and another way of looking at the same thing I'm about to tell you, okay? It's all been out, it's all been said before, it's all been done before, but you'll notice that then you change from where the heart is at the 6th placement into the body to where the genitals would be, or the 9 position, meaning that people are led by their desires. It's think of it that way, that people are led by their desires instead of what is proven to be true. All right? Now, to understand this, now this is my work, so there's not a place where you're going to ask me, where do I go to find this? You're finding it. This is where you find it. All right? So just so we can get that done with. So in this first column, the number 1, I have 1 through 9, all right? The 1 is there. The 1, let's take this for, because every system has to have a set of rules. Now, the rules of this system say this, that if there's a 1 in the column, that is is already activated. All right. If there is not a 1 in the column, it is up to the user or the observer to activate that 1 or to turn that bit on. All right. So then you have, and let's just take this very simply, because this leads into absolutely every decision and everything that you do, every choice that you make. So let's just make it a very simple choice. You see an apple on the table, all right? You see an orange on the table. You see a peanut. It doesn't matter. That becomes the 1. It has become. It is something that you've noticed. It is something that you've seen, and so that is already taken care of. Everything that will ever be is contained in the sight, in the vision, and now there needs to be a choice made. All right. Now let's just take the choice as, do I consume that? All right. So when you move into number 2, which deals with, let me show you that. This would have been the number 1, leading into number 2, and I've told you this before. This deals with the understanding of cern or concern, or take it for this, wisdom. So then you know what it is that you're looking at. You have an understanding of how to use it. And then, so your question to yourself is, do I want to use it? Do I want to consume it? Is that what then next? Or do you just pass it by? If you pass it by, this system then is moved on to your next thought or your next action. But should you want to do something with it, that's what I'm going to go through now. All right? And I should explain this to you, that is why the 21, the 21 code, the idea of the triple 7 into the 3, the understanding that the 3 is nothing more than the G, all right, the 7th position. It's all interchangeable, because if you look at, especially with these hoax stories, if you decide to consume that story as being truth, you will then move to number 3, which is Bina, or the understanding. All right, you will become part of the record. Right, which is how Saturn and the idea of that comes in, the idea of the record, and then you will then have to listen to and react to the tune that you have then consumed here. All right. Now going farther down on my chart, the number 9 is what I call the tet, and that is the information that goes into your mind and it's either offensive or it's true. That understanding, all right? That's something I can go over later if need be. So then you have, notice in this second column, there is no 1. That means that you are responsible for turning that on. This is in the 2. Remember that? So if you concern yourself with this story, if you consume that peanut or that apple, then you must then go to the number 3, because you've turned that on. So then that 44, right, that addition, you added the 1, which brought it into the tet, which will then bring it back around into the next cycle, right? Then you're into the number 3, and remember I showed you that, to where now you're into the understanding of whatever that is, an idea, a consumption. Again, I think I've told you enough to where your mind is where that needs to be. This involves every aspect of life, every decision that's made, all right, regardless of what it entails. All right, so then you look at the number 3 spot, and you notice that this is reducing each time, because these are an addition to the steps here, and its reduced number will be found on to the right. So you have a 1 because you've already made that decision, so the choice is made for you. You have to continue down this road until you lose concern for that, or if it's a food item or whatever, until it leaves your system. All right, here, that's when that leaves your system. Do you understand? But if it's a thought or an idea, especially if it's something that you're dealing with, especially with the space hoax and things like that, you will continue to consume added details. The 88888, remember I told you that the 8 is the idea of the 16 or the 7. All right, so then the 88 is the 16, is the 7, is of course what you pay mind to, And I've already shown you at the beginning what that entails. So now you then go into the 32, or the man in the system. So you become this. You then get turned on your head. All right? This gets turned around. You're now in the system. If it's a lie, you're upside down. All right? If it's not a lie, then you're right side up. All right? You understand that much? So then, moving to the next step, which would be number 4, you have the idea of mercy. That's why when people see a story and it's absolute nonsense, especially if it's dealing with something that they want you to believe is tragic, people will say, "Lord, have mercy." Or the old saying would have been, "Oh, by Jove, by Jupiter." Right? That nonsense. That's where that comes from. All right? It's the idea, that is brought into an actual physical feeling, and then you have an emotional reaction to it. Okay. Now, please understand that all these are ones all the way up until I get to this point, and I'll explain that to you. So no worries. So you're still in the system, because there's still the 1 bit has been activated. All right. So now you're in the 22. All right, or into the 4. The idea of the 44, all right? The idea that you've moved into the 8, or the details. The 22, the understanding of the door, all right? The dalet. Now you've said, "Lord, have mercy." You've accepted the idea as being a true, let's say it's one of these hoaxes. You've accepted at this point that it's true. You've given your emotional response, and now you're going to walk through that door. All right? Because if you believe it back here, if you believe the 6, if you believe the cube's story, the 68 idea, the 86 in the reversed opposite, the idea of the 86, when they say to 86 something, it means to throw it out. And that's been turned on its head to where when you 68, you accept it. All right? Because the cube, the square, 6 sides, 8 corners. All right? So now you're dealing with the idea of the 22, as I showed you before, which deals with going into that's the doorway into you. You are the 5, you're the man in the system, man, woman. Turn on your head because you've been led into a lie. And the severity now, you are asking for what from that? If it's a police action, you say, "What are the police doing? Well, why isn't this person caught? I want to kill that guy." Right? That's what that talks about. So now, this is very interesting, because now we've moved into the 6. All right? This is the wall. This is what you're told to walk on. You are told to walk on the water so that you don't fall into this system. All right? But when you lose faith, you fall into the water. All right? So then what is then this adding into? This adds into your 9-1, all right? Or the idea of the 10, meaning the 1, all right? So then what that's saying is that it's the 9-1, and then of course the added 1 is your complete and total belief, or the 911 system. All right? And that's going to show itself again in the mirror repeat in just a few minutes here. All right? So then you deal with that. So you deal with that. So then that 10 is made. That's the complete cycle. That means that you're going to go through into the upper level now. Now recall, I told you before that this system has you turned on its head so that the 9 becomes the 6 and the 6 becomes the 9. So instead of this lining with your heart, it lines up with your genitals, or the idea of your urges. You want to believe this. You didn't take the time to look at it and to actually weigh the evidence. You just want it to be true, and therefore it is true. All right? So anyways, then you move into the idea of victory, the idea of the 7 or the Zion, because you have decided on your own power that this is in fact the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and that nothing will stand in your way to tell other people about it. All right. So that's, you've gotten your marching orders and you've given them out.